Right now at noon, the Carl Junction City Council meets for the first time since impeaching its mayor.
And we are warm and sunny across the area. As promised, most of our Wednesday looking great, but storms still on the way. The latest coming up.
Plus, an animal shelter in southeast Kansas shuts its doors to any new intakes. We'll explain why.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
This is KOAM News at noon. I'm Elise Snowy. 1 week after the Carl Junction City Council votes to impeach its mayor, the city leaders reconvene with an empty seat. It was back to business last night in Carl Junction. The city council met for the first time since impeaching former Mayor Mike Moss last week. The council carried on with routine city business, but the impeachment still weighed heavy, with residents voicing their concerns.
I really feel like a forensic audit needs to be done. We need transparency. You want accountability. We need transparency. We need to know if this wants to be run as a business instead of a community-minded area, then let's see your business policy, your business rules. Let's see how the money is being spent.
The council announced a special session to take nominations to fill the mayor's position until the April election. That session is scheduled in 2 weeks on September 16th at 6:30 p.m. Let's take it on over now to Chris Warner for a look at the forecast.
We've got a warm and sunny day for many of us. A few clouds here and there, otherwise looking great from our camera downtown Pittsburgh. All right, in terms of numbers, we started yesterday a little below average, made it close to normal, but still below normal. So again, hasn't been all that bad considering where our average high is supposed to be. Warming up though, 79 in Joplin, 79 in Pittsburgh, and temperatures across the region hanging out into the upper 70s. And of course, we go a little further south, starting to see a few more low 80s out there. We still have our thunderstorm chances across the area, and those are still expected around and just after 7. So initially some isolated storms still into the low 80s, falling back through the 70s tonight. Thunderstorms beginning to increase a bit out there, more scattered storms across the area, back down to the low 70s by 11 o'clock tonight. We do have still an isolated tornado risk with greater concerns for large hail and damaging wind gusts across the area. We're going to break down these threats for you, break down the timing on these storms, and what other possible scenarios may play out with the storms this evening, and of course how your weekend's looking here in just a few more minutes. Elise?
All right, Chris, thanks. Well, Joplin is looking for a new homelessness director less than 2 months after their current director took on the role. Eric Argenbright notified the Joplin Regional Commission on Homelessness of his intention to resign within 30 days. He cites unanticipated personal reasons as the cause for his departure. The resignation comes 3 weeks after Argenbright sat down with KOAM to discuss what he hoped to do in the role. According to the commission's executive director, Argenbright will work with them during the transition and offer guidance on next steps. The commission intends to fill the position quickly and says they will know more in the coming weeks. The SEK Humane Society is pausing all new animal intakes as they say they are at risk of closing their doors at the end of the year. The nonprofit says this could happen without new financial support as donations and grants have dropped to unsustainable levels even as the cost of operating continues to rise. Staff say the pause in intakes is necessary as they are already at maximum capacity. Yesterday, the Humane Society asked the Crawford County Commission for $30,000 a month to allow the shelter to remain open.
It's not just about the animals, and that's what I'm here to present to you guys today. This is about public safety, public health, and protecting our county's future, because we're talking about a big problem here.
The SEK Humane Society says community support is more important now than ever before, whether it be through donations, adoptions, or volunteering. We do have more on how you can help on our website. That's, of course, KOAMnewsnow.com. The Arvis Foundation presents a check to Carl Junction schools for their support of the upcoming First Responders Memorial in Jasper County. The memorial is set to be unveiled on September 11th at 9 a.m., honoring those who lost their lives while on duty, such as 1993 Carl Junction High School grad Ben Cooper. Less than a week after a devastating home explosion rocked a North St. Louis County neighborhood, the community gathered for a fundraiser focused on healing and rebuilding. Annie Kroll has the story.
Third-degree burns on the lower part of his body because he had to go through the fire.
That's what happened to 18-year-old Dante Anthony Jr. on August 25th. His uncle, Terrence Hardy, said he was in the basement of the home that exploded in North St. Louis County.
My sister had went out to run. All the kids are athletes. She went out to run, and when she returned home, my nephew said the roof came in.
Hardy said thankfully Anthony was the only person home.
And the fact that they ran track, I believe, was the difference. I can only think of what would have happened to me in that situation. But the fact that he was quick thinking and was able to get out, I would have been too worried about the fire, me being burned.
Anthony is still recovering from being burned on 85% of his body.
We're just hoping that, once he gets able to see himself, that it doesn't send him in a backlash, but, everything is healing, pretty well.
Healing, which was one of Hardy's goals with this pre-show benefit fundraiser ahead of the St. Louis Arts and Entertainment Awards he also organized.
I think it was almost like a phoenix rising from the ashes, and that's kind of the vibe I was feeling.
Local artists like New Religion reacting to when the explosion destroyed or damaged about 25 homes.
I was so shocked. I was like, an explosion? What is going on?
18 performers showed off their talents Sunday outside the Grandel Theater.
People can give money, people can give, a lot of different things, but when you add entertainment, you bring all those elements together as one.
Music is a language of any culture, any city, any state around the world, so music is a good way for us to get a message out there.
Inspirational words as families focus on rebuilding.
The music will kind of get you off your feet and make you feel like, okay, yeah, let's gonna get this together, let's be positive.
Anthony's family established a GoFundMe campaign to help with the expenses. Now, since the explosion, it's raised more than $66,000. And coming up, Congress is back in session and diving headfirst into the case of sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. We'll have the latest from Washington, D.C. And later, we're making potato corn soup in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen. We'll be right back. A police chase in Joplin ends with a crash and an arrest. The incident began just before noon yesterday near 7th and Connor Avenue when officers went to perform a traffic stop on a pickup. The driver sped down 7th Street, but the short chase ended on Schifferdecker Avenue when the pickup slammed into another vehicle. The driver of the other vehicle suffered minor injuries. When officers arrested the driver of the pickup on suspicion of DWI, they discovered the pickup was stolen yesterday from a Joplin home. Authorities have not released the name of the driver at this time. Now to Washington, D.C., where accusers of the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and his incarcerated co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell gathered on Capitol Hill this morning to share their stories publicly. They held a news conference with 2 lawmakers who are pushing for the release of all files related to the Epstein case. Natalie Brand has the details.
We're in a sorority that none of us asked to join.
Accusers of the late Jeffrey Epstein, along with their families and advocates, are fighting for transparency.
He was an international human trafficker.
The women say they want the public to know what they endured.
Protect the vulnerable, not the powerful. Protect children and survivors.
The news conference comes as Republican Congressman Thomas Massey of Kentucky and Democratic Representative Ro Khanna of California are leading a bipartisan effort to try and force a vote requiring the Justice Department to turn over all files related to the case.
There is something that is rotten in Washington. Less than 1% of these files have been released.
The lawmakers are pressuring the Trump administration to disclose more information about the criminal probes and recently subpoenaed the Justice Department for Epstein records. Analysis by CBS News found much of the release had already been made public, but did include unseen surveillance video outside Epstein's jail cell on the night he died by suicide, as well as the disgraced financier's flight logs documenting travel with young women.
It's so hard to begin to heal knowing that there are people out there who know more about my abuse than I do.
House Speaker Mike Johnson was among the lawmakers who met privately with victims on Tuesday, calling them courageous.
There were tears in the room. There was outrage. It was both, I would describe it as heartbreaking and infuriating that justice has been delayed so long.
It is a cover-up of epic proportions.
Other lawmakers say the House Speaker and colleagues are not doing enough to bring transparency and accountability. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
And still to come on KOAM News at noon, Mr. Food.
we've got a homemade fill-you-up dinner that costs less than going through the drive-thru. And it's a lot tastier, too.
And we're tracking the possibility for strong to severe thunderstorms later this evening. We'll go over the details and timing when we come back. Welcome back to the KOAM News at noon on what has been a pretty pleasant day across the area so far. A bit warmer than where we've been lately, but still not too bad. A quick look outside downtown Pittsburgh. Skies clear overhead. Again, we've got a mix of those partly to mostly cloudy skies, mostly clear to partly cloudy. I keep getting that backwards. Well, either way, it's shaping up to be a great afternoon. The problem is it's also shaping up to be good for some strong to severe thunderstorms later this evening. Now, again, we still have the isolated tornado risk in southeast Kansas or some of our northwestern counties. The risk is pretty low, but it's not zero, so it's something we just want to keep an eye on. But the greater concern still remains with the possibility of large hail and damaging wind gusts, and within these hatch marks here, the possibility of very large hails. That'd be 2 inches in diameter or greater. This outlook updated about 45 minutes ago, and as you can see from, if you were with us this morning, no major changes. It's still lining up exactly where we were thinking. However, the two possible scenarios are still out there in terms of what could happen with our storms later this evening. And one of the updates that just came in, so I wasn't able to load it into this, but it would have shown you scenario 2. It shows it actually quite well now. So that's why there's still that split decision here. Through the afternoon until about 7 o'clock, we're all right. We still are mostly clear to partly cloudy. Then we get to 7. Here we are. We're going to stop the future track though at 8. Thunderstorms start working in. Scattered thunderstorms, but they will be strong to severe as they push into the area. So here's scenario number 1, which is what you're seeing here. These storms will remain kind of disorganized and scattered. The storms that we see, though, could still be strong to severe. And then once those pass through and start winding down, we'll still have the opportunity for scattered storms overnight, but those aren't expected to be severe. So our severe threat really still is expected to wrap up 11 p.m., midnight at the latest. And I say midnight at the latest because the other computer model, which again, it just updated. I didn't get an opportunity to load it into here. It shows scenario 2. It shows it very well, actually. And scenario 2 is the possibility that these storms, when they develop later this evening, instead of being so disorganized like you just saw, they organize into a line of storms. Now, it doesn't increase the severity. It doesn't make things worse. It just changes the parameters, where if they organize into a line as they start pushing into our area, we're looking more so at a damaging wind risk versus the hail risk. And we could be looking at that risk lasting a little longer because an organized line would be able to hold up a little better with the front. And you can see where that front is as it passes through. So that would place the line of storms right along the I-44 corridor around 10 o'clock this evening. If that line is what ends up taking place this evening, then that's when it'll just extend the severe risk a little further south than what we're seeing right now. But again, the reason our severe risk is still north of I-44 is because scenario 2 isn't very likely, but it is a possibility. And you know how Mother Nature is sometimes. She'll take the road less traveled. But right now, the expectation is scattered storms. The ones that we see will be strong to severe. Then we'll just have scattered storms overnight. Not expected to be strong or severe, just some rumbles of thunder, and those are still expected to wrap up by sunrise. So not a lot of changes in that for us. Our Thursday looks fantastic again, back into the upper 70s and low 80s across the area. Then we go into Friday. So overnight Thursday into Friday, clouds will begin to increase, and we'll start to see opportunities for some scattered showers, maybe a few thunderstorms as we head through the afternoon. You can see it's not raining everywhere all at once. It's fairly scattered, and some of us may not see much of anything, but we'll have these opportunities into the early overnight hours, and then towards sunrise on Saturday, those will clear out as well. Not expecting anything strong or severe with those. So again, highs today into the low to mid 80s. We'll have those storms after 7 with our west winds 5 to 10. Scattered storms overnight that, again, aren't expected to be strong or severe, but from 7 to 11, 7 to midnight, that's our window for strong to severe storms. Back in the low 60s. After the storms clear out tomorrow, as I mentioned, upper 70s, low 80s. Thursday, otherwise, is looking great. A little cooler Friday with the rain and cloud cover, mid-70s out there. The weekend looks all right until Sunday, late Sunday into Monday. Additional scattered showers and storms. Temperatures climbing back up in the mid to upper 80s toward the end of next week. So again, we'll watch the storms tonight, see which one of those rounds plays out. But either way, just make sure you stay weather aware.
Absolutely. All right, Chris, thanks. And stick around. We're making potato corn soup in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen. We'll be right back. Well, nothing is more welcoming than a big pot of soup at the end of a long day. And with today's Mr. Food recipe, you can whip up a bowl of comfort anytime you want. Howard's making potato corn soup in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Now that the kids are back in school and everyone seems to be getting back into a routine, we find ourselves needing meals that will fill us up, that are fast, and that won't break the bank. Well, nothing is easier or more welcoming than a big pot of soup like the one we're making today. All we do is bring some chicken broth, peeled and diced potatoes, and a bit of chopped onion to a boil. Once it does, we lower the heat and let it simmer until the potatoes are tender. While that's doing its thing, we melt some butter in a skillet and stir in an equal amount of flour to make what is called a roux, which will help thicken our soup. Once we stir that in and it gets all creamy, we add some frozen corn, diced ham, a bit of salt and pepper, and some half and half. A few more minutes and it's time to ring the dinner bell. Maybe serve this with some crusty bread and a salad, and you've got a nice change of pace dinner that's weekday friendly. I do hope you'll go online and get the recipe for our potato corn soup. It's one of those recipes that you'll probably end up putting in the front of your recipe box since everybody loves it. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found an easier way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
We can find this recipe along with a lot more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen. All you have to do is go to our website. That's KOAMnewsnow.com. Now let's take a look at the 4-state market prices.
All right, still watching for those strong to potentially severe thunderstorms later this evening, again between about 7 and 11. Otherwise, low 80s for our highs, a few scattered storms overnight, not severe, overnight into early tomorrow morning. Thursday looks great, more scattered shower storms on Friday, a little cooler as well, mid-70s.
All right, and coming up tonight at 5, a common ingredient found in some gel nail polish is causing serious health concerns in Europe, and experts say it's something American consumers may want to pay attention to. Plus, we meet with Pitt State's new president and learn his vision for the future of the university. And Missouri State Highway Patrol is seeing a rise in fatalities involving commercial motor vehicles. What they're doing to combat the issue. Can join us for those stories and more on KOAM News at 5. And that's the news for now. Thank you for joining us on KOAM News at noon. Have a great rest of your day.